If I had to start over today from absolute zero, no audience, no systems, no workflows, no team, and no leverage, and the only advantage that I had was AI, I'd build my business very differently. Because honestly, most people are using AI completely wrong. They are treating it like a shortcut, a content machine, or some productivity toy. But the business owners who are actually getting massive value from AI right now are using it to build better systems, better workflows, clearer operations, and less chaotic systems in general. And that is where the real opportunity lies. And if I was rebuilding from scratch today using Claude, I would not start with complicated automations. I would not obsess over prompts, and I would definitely not try and automate everything immediately. I'd focus on something much more important, making the business feel lighter from day one, because that will change everything for you like it has done for me now. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps to what I would do with Claude if I was going to rebuild my business from scratch today, right now. And looking back, the biggest mistake that I made in my early career was not the lack of effort. It was not the lack of ambition. It was building too much chaos before building actual structure. And I love the concept of simple scales. And honestly, most business owners still do this. At the beginning, everything will live in your head. The ideas, the tasks, the client information, the follow-up, the content plans, the delivery process, the deadlines, and everything just becomes complete mental storage. And at first, it does feel manageable. But eventually, the business starts becoming heavier. Not because the work is impossible, because there's just way too much operational friction, and there's too much context switching, there's too much scattered systems and too many repeatable tasks still being done, and so many things that will require your memory. And that is where stress will come from. And if I was starting over again today, I'd use Claude in a much easier way just to focus on operational clarity before anything starts to compound into stress. And that's the biggest thing that I'd change. And the very first thing that I'd use Claude for is thinking. Genuinely, no content, no automations. I'd just use it as a thinking support, because clarity is one of the most important competitive advantages that you've got in business. And most founders are mentally overloaded at all times. You'll probably know this. You've got ideas everywhere, random notes, unfinished plans, scattered priorities, and basically 50 things that are coming to you with good intentions but need your attention all the time. And that will create so much mental noise. So straight from scratch, what I would do today is I'd be thinking about having Claude as a thinking partner. I'd take all my rough ideas, my strategies, my thoughts, my observations, my goals, my plans, and I'd dump them into Claude straight away. Then I'd ask basic things like, what are the bottlenecks in my company? What should I prioritize first? What is being unnecessarily complicated? What can I actually build as a workflow? And that is where Claude will become really powerful. Not because it magically solves the business's problems, but it helps you process information more clearly with more clarity. And most business owners do not need more information. They need more clarity around the information that they currently have. And there's a huge distinction between that. The second thing that I do differently is I build systems much earlier. Most businesses will delay building systems because they think they are too small, but that is genuinely backwards. The earlier that you start to build structure, the easier that growth will become, right? And it will not create as much bottleneck down the line. So when I'm looking at building from scratch, I will build a system straight away from day one, like an onboarding system, client checklists, meeting summaries, workflows, building internal SOPs, communication templates, follow-ups, and all my operational processes. Because systems aren't exciting, because systems will basically just help you remove decision fatigue. And that's the important part. A lot of business owners do not understand just how exhausted that they are from decision making every single day, because it relies on your memory, it relies on manual effort, it relies on having to do the same process back to back all the time. And Claude can literally replace all of that for you. So then suddenly you will feel more organized, you will have repeatable flows in place, your communication will be more clearly, and you'll be able to actually have a lot more scalability early doors. And that will change how the business feels with just how it's running. The third thing that I do differently is content. And honestly, I think that how most people approach content with AI is wrong. They are trying to constantly do something from scratch, which will become exhausting really, really quickly. Especially when you are running clients, you are building systems, you're managing operations, and trying to also stay visible online. So if I was rebuilding today, I'd build the content leverage around Claude by inputting as much information as possible into it. Client conversations, LinkedIn posts, newsletters, short form clips, YouTubes, my transcripts, and basically everything that I've got to add as much context as possible, because the context will enable you to have more leverage with what you are doing with content ideation. So business owners do not scale, and they don't scale just from manual output. They will scale from how efficient they are with what they have got in terms of their scalability, how organized that they are, how refined their message messages, how much they can compound their actual ideas into multiple different modalities and formats when it comes to marketing. It's not just about working more, it's about working smarter. The fourth thing that I'd do is I'd focus on communication, because businesses will lose leads, they will lose trust, they will lose momentum, and they will lose quite a lot of opportunities just from poor communication with slow replies or the messy follow-ups or a confusing handover or a confusing proposal or case study or a mix-max sales deck that you've put together. So if I was starting from scratch again today, I'd make sure that my emails, my onboarding, my meeting summaries, my content, my funnels, it all had aligned messaging. And you can literally build out a complete funnel within seconds on Claude. And I think businesses make a huge mistake when they are trying to basically use AI, because they're trying to generate it without actually looking at actually adding context to how they speak, their voice, their tone. So I'd be looking at building context and then starting to build all these different systems. Now, this is what I would not do. I would not chase every AI tool. I would not build a giant automation stack. I would not obsess over prompts or try to automate my entire business overnight. And I genuinely think that that is one of the biggest traps that people are in at the moment. People are chasing complexity instead of actual usefulness and practicality to do with what they're actually doing inside their company. And most business owners do not need more tools. Then they don't need more bottlenecks, they need fewer bottlenecks. And that's the real issue at the moment. So instead of trying to automate every single thing in your business, start just focusing on reducing repetitive work, improving clarity, improving organization, and making the business easier to run, but also building intelligence and also context and compounded information over time. Because the goal is to not use AI more. The goal is to remove unnecessary friction that you just don't need to be doing inside your business. And when you start to understand that early doors, that's when you'll start to move lighter. You'll start to move faster, because all of that headache and friction and stress that your head can now be put into things that you actually put into your business. You will stop carrying everything in your head. You will stop constantly rebuilding the same workflow. You will stop manually organizing every bit of information, and you'll stop losing momentum between tasks because it's taken so much time and bandwidth for you to do it. Instead, you will have more clearer decisions, better communication, better operations, higher level and faster level execution. And that is where I think AI is so important, because it is not just about it coming in and replacing you or doing a basic task like just write me this email. It's about building intelligence. It's about building workflows, and it's about compounding. And imagine that you've got the most powerful, full personal assistant, executive assistant, marketing, operations, reporting, finance person literally at your fingertips if you're willing to actually communicate with it. So smaller teams will have better systems, less manual work, and also more scalability just from using AI properly. And it's not because they're hustling harder, but it's just because they're operating more intelligently. So if you're a solopreneur, if you've got a small team, 20 team, 30 team, I would be plugging Claude into every single thing that every single person is doing inside my business, like I do now. And not because it's perfect, because it's just incredibly good at organizing things, creating structure, thinking, better communication, and just creating more clarity for that person and that user. So again, if I was going to be starting again from today with Claude, I would not focus on building anything complicated for my company. All I would do is I would focus on nailing the absolute basics. I would get my day-to-day tasks and my week-to-week tasks, and I would insert that into Claude and insert that into the system, and then turn around to it and say, how can you support me to increase bandwidth, to get all of this off my plate so then I can focus on high ROI activities. It's as basic as that. Start simple. Just use it to organize your thinking, create structure, reduce repetitive work, and build a smoother workflow. And that is where the biggest real leverage will start. So all I say to business owners now is, if you can genuinely read, copy and paste, and follow really easy standard level SOP advice, I can show you how to set up Claude in terms of projects, co-work, and multiple different AI systems as well. On top of that, once you've mastered Claude, for what would be over £100,000 a month in staff wages. And we don't just do that at the Coach Consultant. We believe in building personal brands, which can also fight against and tackle against people using AI incorrectly. But the good news is we teach people how to use AI properly, but also how to build a personal brand that combats against the market at the moment. So if you want to find out more about working one-to-one with me to set these systems up and much more, there's a link in the description of my video, and I'll see you on the next one.